Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. Today I'm going to talk about 16 or 17 of my most anticipated fantasy romance releases for 2024. If you are more of a contemporary romance reader, my last video was talking about 2024 contemporary romance releases, so I will leave a link to that down below. And just like in that video, I'm not going to include any books that are published in January because that's going to get its own video. And I don't think any or very few of the books on this list are self-published because it's just way too far in advance to know when those are coming out. And I just want to point out that these are my most anticipated fantasy romance releases, and when it comes to this genre, I lean more towards cozy fantasy with some spice, so you're going to see a lot of those on this list, but some other things as well. I'm just excited to talk about all these, share them with you, and these are definitely some of my most anticipated books of the entire year because myself, like so many others, really fell in love with fantasy romance, specifically cozy though, in 2023. Starting off strong with a book that comes out on February 6th. This is a book that I had no idea we were going to get, but I'm really excited for it. And I'm not normally somebody who reads novellas or short stories within a broader series, but in this case, I will make an exception. And this is Tales from the Celestial Kingdom by Sue Lynn Tan. Obviously the author of the Celestial Kingdom, the first book being Daughter of the Moon Goddess. And I know that not everybody loves that series, and I understand all of the criticisms of it, but I adore it. And this book is a series of 9 short stories, all set within the same world. It's the past, the present, and the future of this story, and we get different POVs, including some of the main characters from the original series, but some new perspectives as well. And I have said every time I have reviewed that series that I think there's so much potential in this world that Sue Lynn Tan has created. She created such a unique universe that she should explore more, and I'm glad that she's doing it in this way. I'm open to even more bigger books, but I'm glad that we're just getting a taste more because I love to see what's going on in other POVs of this world, people who are surrounding our main characters, things that happened in the past that maybe I had questions about the future of where it's going, because if you read the ending of the second book, it maybe is not the most satisfying, though I do appreciate it. So I'm just thrilled that we're getting this and so soon. And Kelly Chong, one of my favorite illustrators, obviously does the covers, and I discovered that she's also including illustrations throughout the book itself. So you know, at the very least, this is going to be beautiful. Probably should have also mentioned that you're going to see a lot of witchy books in this because, again, that leans into that cozy fantasy romance vibe that I appreciate. So this next one comes out on February 20th, and this is called Remedial Magic by Melissa Marr. So what happens to our main character early on in the story? She is a librarian who enjoys baking scones and solving a mystery, but then one day she falls in love with a witch. She herself discovers that she is a witch, and she has to enroll in a magical community college in order to save this new world that she's discovered. So this is a sapphic romance, and the other character in this one comes from this other universe or this other realm and is in search of help, and our librarian is prophesized to save the day. So obviously there's a lot going on here. Our main character didn't know that she was a witch in the first place, and now she has to save the world. So I think that'll be fun, exactly my wheelhouse, so many of my buzzwords. I was actually just sent an e-arc of this one from HarperCollins this morning, and I don't think I've been this excited for an e-arc in a long time because this is a book that was supposed to be self-published in 2022 by an author who I followed on Instagram for a long time before she was ever writing a book, just a bookstagrammer and adore her. And then it got picked up by HarperCollins, obviously, and I was thrilled for her, but the release date was pushed back for that reason. And now I've been waiting even longer. So when I got this e-arc this morning, I was so excited. And if you don't know already, I am co-hosting the Once Upon a Readathon Iceland edition in January. My team is Team Ice Fae, and this book has Fae. It doesn't come out until February 27th, but because I have this arc now, I can read it in January for my team. I should probably tell you the title at this point, right? It's Lore of the Wild by Analeigh Sbrana, and it says here that it has an enchanted library, I love, 2 handsome fae, and 1 human who connects them. So our main character's name is Lore, and her village is trapped in a forest prison that nobody can escape from, and Lore has the scars to prove it. She has attempted to escape many times and has always been unsuccessful. One day her village is threatened, and she decides to make a deal with a Fae Lord where she will go back and catalog an enchanted library that no Fae are able to access, but maybe a human can, and that in exchange he will save her village, but she wants something more. She wants magic of her own. And when she's there, she meets these two fae and is attracted to them both. So I'm curious to see what direction the romance takes. But also Enchanted Library, I love a human in a fae world. And I'm excited to finally have a chance to read it in January and then talk to everyone about it when it comes out in February. Another book coming out on February 27th is one I think a lot of people are going to be excited for because I've been recommended this author's other series many times and I know people love it. And that is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. Now before we talk about the contents of this book at all, I saw on Instagram yesterday that the first printing of this book, so you can get it at any of your local bookstores or Barnes & Noble or Indigo here in Canada. This might just be US and Canada, I'm not sure, but I will confirm that down below. It's gonna have a special printing. There are beautiful edges and everything. I'm gonna put up a video or a picture of it here so you can see it. So if this is something that you're interested in, I recommend pre-ordering it now. And what really intrigues me about this book is that our main character is a shield maiden. She has this drop of goddess blood in her that no one else knows about, and this gives her the powers of a shield maiden where she is able to repel attacks against her. Makes sense with the name. It says here that she's blessed by the gods and she battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king while also falling for his fiery son. And this is Norse inspired and sounds fantastic, and again, pre-order it if you're interested so you can get that beautiful first edition. 2024 is going to be a huge year for Allison Saft because I have a different book by her that I'm really excited for, but it comes out in January, so I'll talk about that book in my January video. But on March 5th, she's releasing a book called A Dark and Drowning Tide, and it sounds incredible. I think you can tell by the cover that it's got that gothic feel that I also really appreciate in my fantasy romance and in any book in general, in my horror as well. And there's something about a romance between academic rivals that I really love. This is another sapphic romance, and in this case our main character is a folklorist who is sent on a mission to find like an enchanted spring, and she and 6 other colleagues set out on this ship along with her mentor, and her mentor is murdered on this ship, obviously isolated, so somebody aboard the ship is the killer and everybody has a motivation. The only person that she knows for sure didn't do it is her academic rival. So the two of them pair up to solve this mystery while also looking for this spring and trying to survive because they're aboard a ship with a murderer. But that is not the only problem. There are other dangers afoot, like forests that rearrange themselves, rivers with slumbering dragons waiting beneath the water, and other shape-shifting beasts. Plus there's this romance brewing between them. That sounds absolutely fantastic. As I'm talking about it, I'm thinking I should probably pre-order that one. April 2nd, this is going to be huge because so many of us loved the very secret society of irregular witches, and Sangu Mandala has a new book coming out that I think technically you could say is a series, but it's more of a companion just set in the same world. And that is called A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and this cover tells me everything I need to know. There's a talking fox in this. Our main character is Sarah Swan, and she used to be the most powerful witch in Britain until she used her magic to resurrect her great aunt. And now she has lost her powers. She's befriended this semi-villainous talking fox. I love it. And she's been exiled from her magical guild. She now helps her aunt run this inn, and then she comes across this old spell book that might hold the key to getting her powers back, but she needs help, and the only person that can help her is Luke, who is an icy and cold historian. So obviously they have a romance. I love a romance setup like that. Witchy rom-coms all day long. Semi-villainous fox. I'm gonna love this. I already know I love this author. Cannot wait. On April 16th, we have Earthflown by Wren, and this is definitely not one of the books on my list that leans cozy, but it really does appeal to me. It says it's character-driven, explores a water crisis, hyper-privatization, and love. And this is set in London, or a version of London, that has long since abandoned Earth due to the rising sea levels. Our main character, Ethan, is a healer who unknowingly saves the life of an heiress to a large pharmaceutical company who is in charge of controlling the water supply. And her brother kind of becomes obsessed with our main character and is sending him flowers. The two of them get involved. He doesn't think that it's going to be anything too serious, but then he becomes entangled in this conspiracy. And apparently the conspiracy involves murder, a drug cartel, and a bid for the lucrative reconstruction tender Project Earthflown. So all that is going on. And then I think we also have the perspective of Oliver, who is a journalist who gets a tip about a dead body, finds his body, and is somehow entranced in this story as well. So those two things are happening at once. If you were a fan of Emily Wilde, this is a book you're gonna have to put on your TBR. It's giving Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, but under the water. It's called A Letter to the Luminous Deep by Sylvie, Cathrall, and it comes out on April 25th. So it opens up following a character named E, who has a home underwater, as you do, and looks out her window and makes a discovery. She then corresponds with a renowned scholar named Henry, and they are exchanging letters back and forth that are passionate at first about their discoveries and then become more and more romantic. The two of them discover a mystery, then E's home is destroyed and the two of them disappear. Then a year later, E's sister and Henry's brother get together to try and find their siblings, and they're going through all their letters and sketchbooks and correspondence to try and determine where they are, and they're seeing how the love story unfolded, and maybe they have a romance between themselves. So there's so much going on that sounds perfect for me. It just sounds incredible. Another book that couldn't look more me is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, and this comes out on May 14th. Our main character in this case is Marigold, and she prefers the company of spirits over people and the men who are trying to woo her. And one day her grandmother comes, whisks her away to the family cottage to train her to be the next Honey Witch. But the thing with being a honey witch is that you're cursed, that you can never find true love. In comes Lottie, who comes to the village, ends up knocking on our main character's door for some reason. She's a skeptic, she doesn't believe in magic, and they have feelings for one another. Marigold's doing everything she can to prove to Lottie that magic does exist, but through that process, a darker magic is unlocked, and obviously they have to save the world. Sounds adorable. Another thing I love, haunted houses. So obviously I'm really excited for Love in All the Haunted Places by Claire Kann. This comes out on May 21st. This follows Lucky, who has an affinity for the supernatural, but nothing's going right in her life. She's estranged from her family, she's not getting into the grad school programs that she's applying for, but one day she hears rumblings about a movie production that seems to be cursed. It is being filmed in this old Victorian home, and the actors have spent 3 nights there and they've run away. They don't want nothing to do with this house. Obviously Lucky is attracted to this. She somehow tricks her way onto the movie production. She meets a man there that she's really into, and they have great chemistry, and everybody on set knows it and recognizes it, including the house itself. This house is lonely, it's sentient, and it wants Lucky's undivided attention, so it is doing everything it can to keep Lucky and this man apart. But Lucky is determined to have a happy ending for everybody, including this heartbroken house. So this sounds so cute. I love when a house is a character itself, but I've never read one where it is this jealous and trying to get a character's undivided attention. On June 11th, we have a new book from Alexandra Rowland, who's an author I've been wanting to read from for quite a while, and this one's called Running Close to the Wind. This book follows Avra, who's a former field agent, and somehow steals the world's most expensive secret, and cannot do anything with the secret other than flee to the open seas. And as luck would have it, the only person he can ask for help is his on-again, off-again ex, who happens to be a pirate captain. They decide that the best thing to do with this information is to take it to the Pirate Republic of the Isle of Lost Souls. But it says that there are a few things standing in their way. The new ambassador to the Isle of Lost Souls, who is watching Avra's every move, Brother Julian, a beautiful new member of the crew who has secrets and an inconvenient vow of celibacy. And they're sailing straight into the sea serpent breeding season. It does sound good. It always makes me nervous because as much as I love the idea of books set on the sea, I haven't found one that I really like, but this one has potential. I'm into the idea of a sea serpent. I know that Red Tower, the publishing company responsible for Fourth Wing, has a few books coming out next year. I haven't looked into them all that much. They all have different edges and things like that. But from what I can tell, their release dates keep changing, and I'm not sure if they're just not prepared for the popularity of these or what it is, because the one that I do think I'm interested in was originally supposed to come out in February, and it now comes out on June 25th. So we'll see if that changes, and that's part of the reason I only put this one book from them on my list, and that is Bloodguard by Cecy, Robson. And I think I understand why I'm interested in this one, because our main character is Leith of Grey, and he decides to volunteer to be a gladiator, and he wants to do this in order to be able to afford to save his sister, and he discovers that he has been lied to. His hope, his freedom, his humanity have all been stripped from him. He then meets Maeve, who is an elven royal who represents everything that he hates or should hate because he's attracted to her. And then she offers him a chance to win this coveted position of the Bloodguard, and it would also give him his freedom, so of course he takes her up on that, and there's this romance as well. So the gladiator element of this really intrigues me. The copy is really beautiful. We'll see if we actually get it on June 25th or not. We're getting a companion novel to The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, and this is The Undermining of Toil and Frank, and this is by Megan Bannon and comes out on July second. Even if I hadn't read the first one and really liked it, it's not a perfect book, but there were things about it I really appreciated, I would have put this one on my list because it's being described as Harry Met Sally but with dragons. I never needed anything more. Who knew I needed that in my life? But I do. That sounds incredible. And what I really appreciate about this one is that our main characters are older. Twyla is widowed. She is a mother. She decides to become a marshal with her next door neighbor, Frank. And what she really loves about this job is that it adds some excitement to her life. But if you read the first one, you know that the world is a little bit safer now. People aren't as in peril as much as they used to be, and that's fantastic, but also boring for Twyla. So when they find the body of a fellow marshal who's covered in liquid glitter, which is interesting, her and Frank are on the case. And somehow Frank has fostered this baby dragon. I'm into that. And they get wrapped up in this nefarious plot, and maybe they start to realize that the relationship between them is more than just a friendship. Okay, this next one. It is at the top of my list as my most anticipated 2024 fantasy romance release. I would have had it near the top a few days ago, but now that I've read the first 2 books in the series and I'm reading the 3rd book by Sarah Beth Stearns, The Queen of Blood is the first one, the second one is A Reluctant Queen, I'm in love with her writing. I'm in love with what she does with world building. So The Spell Shop by her comes out next year. It looks even more of my vibe than The Queen of Blood, which I didn't think was possible because I love The Queen of Blood so much, but given everything I know about this author now, I cannot tell you how excited I am for this book, and I hope we get some really beautiful special editions of it. It is a cottagecore fantasy romance, first of all. It follows Keela, who is a librarian who hates being around people, so her position is perfect for her. She spends all her years with her assistant, Kaz, who just happens to be a sentient spider plant. I love that so much. So they spent 11 years together in this library, protecting the spell books of the Empire, so they're magic and it's only for the elite. But then a revolution is brewing and her library is burnt down and she's on the run with as many books as she can hold to her hometown, which happens to be this faraway island. When she returns home, she discovers that her island is in disarray and learns that the Empire has been sucking the power from this island slowly for their own benefit. And of course she feels indirectly responsible for this, so she decides to open a spell shop and sell spells and magic to civilians, which is highly illegal. Oh, and there just happens to be a handsome neighbor, of course, and some quirky townfolk. Adorable. On August 13th, we have the 3rd book in the Glimmer Fall series, and this one is called A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. So you might be familiar with the series. The first book is A Witch's Guide to Dating a Demon, and these are just fun. They are quirky, witchy romances, now monster romances, because obviously in this case we have a relationship between a werewolf and a vampire. In this case, Ben is a werewolf and he owns a really thriving plant business, but he's dealing with a lot of anxiety, especially around the full moon, and he drunkenly orders a possessed crystal on eBay, and he gets this crystal and out pops a really dangerous and angry vampire. Our vampire has been cursed by an evil witch way back in medieval times, and now she's forced to obey the orders of whoever possesses this crystal, and she's very confused as to why this witch sold her for 99 cents or something on eBay, and they decide to try and work together that they could help one another, and I'm guessing he wants her to have her freedom and she's gonna help him in some other way, but he owns a plant business, he's like sweet, and she is a vampire who is more spicy. Love that kind of interaction. I already know I like this series. Gonna be incredible. And then on October 3rd, we have Best Ex Ever by Nadia L. Fossey. And this is cozy and spicy. We don't have a cover of it yet or much information, but it says a kitchen witch cursed to hurt anyone who falls for her. Dina runs a cafe and meets museum curator Scott when they are maid of honors and best men at their friend's wedding. So we really know nothing, but I love the title. I love a witchy rom-com. I'm here for a museum curator. That could be really fun. So what I'm really looking forward to, I bet you the cover is going to be stunning, and I will share a reveal of that cover somewhere on social media or maybe in a future US versus UK cover. We'll see if it gets 2 covers or not. You'll see it from me eventually because I'm really looking forward to it and I'll keep my eye on it. But that is it. Those are the 16 fantasy romances that I'm most excited for. I know I missed a ton. Let me know the ones you're most excited to read, and I'll see you in my next video where I think I'm going to talk about the YA releases I'm excited for because there's some I really want to highlight, and I'll talk to you then. Thank you for your support. Bye for now.